This is Late Night Politics on Star FM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene.
It's a Monday and it's Late Night Politics. My name is George Musumba. The past week has gripped the nation with the goings-on in Zimbabwe's largest opposition party following an announcement that MDC-T Vice President Nelson Chamisa was appointed the party's acting president, taking over from engineer Elias Mudzuri. The message was conveyed via MDC-T President Morgan Tsvangirai's spokesperson, Luke Tamborinyoka. After that statement, all hell broke loose on social media, with the party's spokesperson, Obed Gutu, refuting it. Next to weigh in was Elias Mudzuri with another statement rescinding the Tamborinyoka statement. It was issued from South Africa, where Mudzuri was attending a meeting in Cape Town. The following day, Tamborinyoka called a press conference and insisted that he spoke for the party president. In South Africa, Mudzuri went to see Mr. Tsvangirai on two occasions, and the family appeared on SABC claiming that their father had not issued any statement, thereby labeling Tamborinyoka and Chamisa as liars. And on Sunday, at the Masvingo MDC Alliance rally, the MDC Alliance partners all endorsed Nelson Chamisa as the party acting president, as well as the MDC Alliance president. Tonight, we look at the implications of the factional fighting in MDC-T, and I have in the studio PDP spokesperson and lawyer Jacob Mafume, as well as university lecturer and political analyst Sharon Hofisi. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we speak today, being a Monday, the other acting president of the MDC-T, Mr. Mudzuri, has also issued another statement now, and he says that he's still the acting president because this was done by Morgan Tsvangirai openly in the presence of the party presidium and the full knowledge of the entire national party leadership to act until the president's return. And the people who are going to speak on behalf of the party, it's only the national spokesperson now, Obed Gutu, as well as Mudzuri himself. And I think Tamborinyoka has been stripped of his spokesperson's powers, so to speak. So, gentlemen, there's a lot that has been going on in the MDC-T, but the backdrop of this is an MDC-T president who's not feeling well, Morgan Tsvangirai. But we see the infighting is growing stronger and stronger. Why is MDC facing this crisis? I'll start with you, Sharon.
What I can just to say is you cannot rule out issues to do with succession politics. This is succession politics at play, and also the party is also involved in an alliance with other democratic partners, and this is what is currently making it very difficult for the alliance partners and the MDC-T on its own to then find a common ground on the succession issues that are in the MDC.
Would you describe it as similar to the ZANU-PF implosions which happened in 2017? When the whole year we were gripped with the power struggles in ZANU-PF?
You can say that because there were allegations that sometimes you could also see that the former president's wife was given or was alleged to have been given powers to run the government, and you also saw the people actually talking about the former president as the center of power. Now we have coalition partners. They are also coming up with their own view, and you are then seeing the MDC-T itself coming up with its own views. So you can talk about third forces in ZANU-PF. The former first lady being one of the third forces influencing ZANU-PF internal struggles, and here we can see the alliance being one of the third forces, which is again involved in shaping the structures of the MDC-T.
Jacob, let me bring you in. Why is the MDC facing this crisis from your own point of view?
Well, I wouldn't call it a crisis as such. What I will call it is that a political movement, an opposition or a ruling party or any political party is a dynamic organism. It always has periods of contestation, especially when there's a perceived incapacitation of the leader, if there's a perceived succession issues that might deal. People will position themselves not necessarily to be number one, but to be number two. So there is very clear that the leader of the MDC-T is Morgan Tsvangirai, and that position is not contested, and there's no crisis in as far as that is concerned.
How do you describe this scenario? Let me just disturb you there. If you say it's not a crisis, what is it?
There is a contestation to be number two, as it were, or the
number two
to Morgan Tsvangirai. In other words, with the hope that if you become number two, then it will be easier to then become number one. And therefore, you have a situation which is fairly normal, where people are saying, I'm the acting president. You have Honorable Mudzuri, who says that he is an acting president.
So it's the power crisis.
Yes, but it's not really a power crisis. There's someone who is being a victim of his own ambitions. So he goes to South Africa as an acting president and forgets that the protocol is that when you leave the country constitutionally, someone has to remain acting. You do not act with your acting presidents and cross the border. Even President Mugabe, who was a leader of a whole country, would never do that. He would never move with the presidents outside the country. No president in Africa does that. No acting president in Africa does that. So Mr. Mudzuri has made a power play whereby he is saying, even if I go out of the country, I move with the acting presidents. Constitutionally, it's not possible. There was only one vice president remaining in the country at the time that Kupe and Mudzuri were outside, and he became constitutionally the acting president, and then that was endorsed by the presidential spokesperson.
Who appointed Chamisa to be the acting president at that particular time?
It's by operation of a constitution. So
it wasn't a directive from
let's follow the sequence. Two presidents go out of the country. Right now, President Mnangagwa is outside the country. He and the two of them are here. So let's say if President Mnangagwa was outside the country, Kembo Mahadi or the other president is outside the country, it automatically means that General Chiwenga is the acting president. Automatically, by operation of constitution. So Kupe and Mudzuri went outside the country. So it automatically meant Chamisa remaining inside the country is the acting president.
And even the constitution of that, it says Article 9 of the MDC Constitution, it says the functions of the deputy president are to act on behalf of the president whenever the president is absent from Zimbabwe.
So now we have Mr. Mudzuri here, a victim of his ambition. He believes that for some reason, when it comes to him, the president must go with him outside the presidency must go with him outside the country. It's unheard of.
But then
then what then happened after that? Through Luke, because he was going to come back, right? So through the presidential spokesperson, the president then said, Mr. Chamisa, you will remain acting until I come back. So even if
until who comes back?
Until Morgan Tsvangirai comes back. So even if Mr. Mudzuri were to come back, it then meant that he would not reassume the acting presidency. And in any event, it's not protocol to come back and want to reassume the acting presidency. So for some reason, Mr. Mudzuri is behaving unconstitutionally by saying at one time I was appointed an acting president. All the vice presidents at one time are appointed acting presidents. It does not mean that they remain so.
I think the other issue that has come up is that Mr. Tsvangirai's Twitter handle is being abused. Did Mr. Tsvangirai tweet, or someone is using that Twitter handle to convey messages purportedly on behalf of Mr. Tsvangirai?
Why are we having selective belief of Mr. Tsvangirai's Twitter handle simply because it's opposed to what Mudzuri wants?
No. Let's leave Mr. Mudzuri out of it.
Why is the Twitter handle is being operated in a manner that Morgan Tsvangirai has always operated his Twitter handle?
No.
If the president used that Twitter handle, I have not seen any variation in his message. I have not seen
the last tweet on Friday where Mr. Tsvangirai was purportedly saying my family is not whatever. I think even if I'm Mr. Tsvangirai and I have my family there, I would not tweet it to the MDC family, which shows that I doubt that it is Mr. Tsvangirai using that Twitter.
The president is clarifying. He has not been a president for 2 days. The president has always had his family. Now you have a vice president abusing a family which is facing a very traumatic event at a hospital, and he calls, as a vice president, he calls the press. After he speaks, he then exposes them to SABC. Surely the president will be alarmed, because the vice president was never instructed to bring the family of Tsvangirai to the press. The president has always had his family, and he is simply restating his position. His Twitter message, his Twitter handle has not gone off track. He has consistently said the things he has said ever since he started Facebooking.
Was it him who was tweeting? Because the family seems to suggest that he is
the family,
not in a position to use the phone. Why do you doubt his family?
No, because they have never lived in his house. They have,
but they are with him at the hospital
until they were young. A president's communication department, as you know.
So it is Luke who's tweeting.
A president's No. I do not say it is Luke who is tweeting. I said the Twitter handle of Morgan Tsvangirai is tweeting the same messages it has always tweeted. Facebook message handle has always tweeted the same message.
That is why I have described this as a crisis, because perceptions now, looking at the party, it seems as if now the family is there. You are busy fighting the family. Mudzuri, you are busy fighting Mudzuri.
No. We are using a constitution. Every party leader in MDC has got a family. The SG has got his family. The treasurer has got his family. The spokesperson, everyone, Luke even has his own family. So if you start talking about the president
and the wife
in
is
relation
being dragged
to families, yes, I'm saying we listen to the constitution. All the leaders of the MDC have got families. So we cannot say, because
let me bring in Sharon Hofisi. Sharon Hofisi, is this a succession issue which has gone wrong, completely wrong? Is it still manageable? Would you describe it as not a crisis?
Well, I would not say, I would disagree with what Jacob is saying, but what I'm saying is, politically, yes, he's saying there are other avenues, but we are saying, loosely describing what is obtaining in the MDC-T. This is a crisis. But what we're saying here is, linking into succession, you can see that the center of power is not holding currently, because in terms of the constitution of the MDC-T, the president is also the chief principal office or leader. So what we are simply saying here is, everyone, like what Jacob rightfully said, is trying to get into a position where he can then be the center of power. So by saying I want to be the president or the acting president, you know that if the center of power is no longer there, I will assert my right to the helm of the political party. So at a very surface level, we can say this is a crisis of leadership. But like he has rightfully said, in terms of the constitution, there was going to be a power vacuum which could have been created had it been that Chamisa had not been appointed, had not taken over as the acting president, because their constitution is very clear that if the president goes out of Zimbabwe, the deputy president must be or must act, or must be the acting president. Now he's clearly saying, in terms of the constitution, 2 presidents have crossed the borders. So the cause follows the what? Or the result follows the cause.
Yes.
So we are saying here the 2 presidents, the 2 acting presidents, they have crossed the borders. So reading your constitution clearly, it says who is now in Zimbabwe is Chamisa, and he has to.
Did they have to use Morgan Tsvangirai's name to say he has said appoint Chamisa, or they should have just said the constitution says such and such? Why do you have to wait for Morgan to tell you from South Africa that appoint Chamisa as the acting president when the constitution is there?
Their issue here is, I think it's just like referring to their constitution does not end on a president. It also goes to a chief or a CEO of a party. They are simply saying, we want to acknowledge that our CEO still has the reins. But what we are seeing is we are just communicating the needs or the wishes of our CEO. To say, okay, when I come back, I will then assume the reins.
Because I would assume that Mudzuri would not have disputed it if you had brought out the constitution. No. But to purport to say that Morgan has said, put Chamisa as the acting president.
But you could see if you watched the SABC clip.
That was on Friday, but on Monday, yes. That's when the crisis started. On Monday, that's when the crisis started.
No, the issue is that Mudzuri, even if you look at the statement issued out by Luke, it was clearly referenced to the constitution and the presidential protocol. What was only the addition was that he will then remain the acting until the president comes back, so that there wouldn't be any other contestations. But he referred to the constitutional protocol in his statement. I mean, naturally, Mr. Mudzuri needs to understand that he could not move. He can't move with the presidents like he's in his own pocket. No president has ever done that. It is actually very embarrassing that a man who can read the constitution can move around claiming to be moving around with it kuma borders or across the borders. We just need to follow protocol here in Zimbabwe. The clear message is that our constitution is very clear. When the presidents are not in the vice president takes over.
You were simply supposed to read where power begins and goes.
It goes, yeah.
The program is Late Night Politics. We are discussing the goings on in the largest opposition party in Zimbabwe, the MDC-T. There's been a lot of conflicting statements. Who is the acting president of the party? What is going on? Who is issuing statements and so forth? The tussle between Mr. Chamisa and Mr. Mudzuri. And I suppose the party supporters are now probably confused as to what is going on in the party with about 4 months to an election. Why is the party so imploding when they should be preparing for this watershed election, which ZANU-PF, from the looks of it, has held 2 huge rural rallies, and it seems as if it has got their acts in order. The economy, the president, Mr. Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa, looks as if he's really focusing on the issues that matter. But we see that in the MDC, there is a lot of fighting. What does the constitution say about, well, before I go there, should the supporters wait for Mr. Tsvangirai to come back, looking at the illness that he's going through? Let's say, suppose he recovers, it's cancer. Let's say suppose he recovers. Is he strong enough to run in 4 months' time? Let me start with Jacob.
Yes, look, we are not the first party to have a president who is ill. We know that the current president himself claims that he went on an aeroplane bleeding in every part of his body, and he says he was poisoned 300%. That's what he says. So it means there was no percentage of his body without a poison.
Jacob, are you not burying your head?
No, I'm not burying my head. It was the president, the current president here, was 300% ill.
Some are saying
poisoned.
Yes, he is fully
350% ill. So our president is ill. Yes, we will leave it to God to decide what happens to him. We are praying every day that he gets better. We are praying that the Lord will answer our prayers. He's at a very good facility in terms of treatment, and we have every faith that whatever it is they are doing to him, the specialists will see him through and he will come back. But what we have to do, our job here, when we are back, he left us with specific tasks. He said, gentlemen, I'm going for treatment. You remember, he went walking into the aeroplane. I'm going for treatment. I will leave you working on the MDC alliance. And from my part, I'll give you Nelson Chamisa to work so that when
Mafume,
that's what he said. When I come back,
when did he say
he
that?
He said that it publicly. The statement that appointed Mudzuri as the acting president also said that Chamisa is going to be the acting for the president's own alliance business. I mean, it is a public statement. The same statement that appointed the clearly. It then said that Chamisa will represent Morgan Tsvangirai on alliance issues. Hofisi, and that is what he is doing. So we are doing it not to take over. Mr. Chamisa, from what I understand, is not doing it to take over from Tsvangirai.
Okay, these guys, are they not putting too much pressure on Mr. Tsvangirai to come back on the campaign trail, looking at that he's also has to recuperate, he has to fight cancer, he has to be healthy, and you want to throw him into a campaign trail? Should there be isn't it time to call for an extraordinary Congress?
Well, I would say one, it depends with what the doctor for Mr. Tsvangirai is going to say. If he proposes a sabbatical, I think it would be very much unfair on the alliance partners or even on MDC-T self to do that. But for an extraordinary Congress, it's very clear in the MDC constitution that the calling of an extraordinary Congress is discretionary. You can do that by a simple majority vote of the National Council or 2/3 votes of the National Executive, or you can have 2/3 of the Provincial Council, or you can have written requests by at least 1/3 of the members. But you can clearly see that the National Council or the National Executive has not shown that Mr. Tsvangirai is unfit, and the Provincial councils have never been seen to say either Chamisa or Mudzuri must be the president. They are not saying Mr. Tsvangirai is incapacitated in any way. Even the general members of the MDC-T are not, we have not heard that they have actually used the route of a written request to say they no longer want Mr. Tsvangirai. So,
but Hofisi, is that not taking a leaf out of the ZANU-PF, the old ZANU-PF book, where people were saying Mugabe must run in 2018 at 94 years, and no one would dare say that no other candidate other than Mugabe. Now we have Sabe Chete, but are we being realistic here? Is this not a case of saying, if I become the first one to say no, let's now look at other candidates? Zozonza Anza, Chadi Sabe Chete.
But the beauty of it is, Sabe, like you're saying, he is saying Tsvangirai has been delegating. This was
the problem with the delegation is that why would Mudzuri or Kupe go against the grains of the party?
Because they crossed the border and they saw that it was very difficult for them to come and assert the acting presidents.
Yeah. They crossed the border. You see, people must understand one thing: when you are working on Zimbabwean politics, please remain in Zimbabwe
and read what is
and read your constitution. There are people who think that these constitutions are written just for the sake of writing. Namo ya Zimbabweans iri muno mu Zimbabwe. The problems that people are facing, they are facing them in Zimbabwe. So this idea of gallivanting and running all over the show without a clear purpose, and then you expect all of us to wait as if
the fruits of the
as if you are Jesus, it's a problematic. But now, what we are clear on is that Morgan Tsvangirai said to us, gentlemen, I'm going for treatment.
Don't repeat that.
Okay.
That fable.
But
that is a fable.
but then, so even during his time, remember, Kupe had long stopped talking to Morgan Tsvangirai. She had refused to go to his house. She had long stopped talking to him.
But you remember there was violence and
no, there was never violence.
You remember
then
when she didn't. Then after the alliance was launched in Harare.
Even when the alliance meetings were being done, even when Morgan was
there. Why would it be an issue if I don't talk to the president? Is it? You see, that's the issue that I was trying to refer to. Where we centralize too much power in one person.
But we've got here an issue where if you don't,
if I don't talk,
how does he then?
If I don't talk to Mafume, if he's my party president,
but how do you know his vision? Where do you get? You are part of the cockpit. You are the co-pilot, and we expect the reason why we put you as a co-pilot is we expect cohesion. You have to meet more often than us, the ordinary people, because we can't meet the president all the time.
Yes, but we will never know the issues which cause the rift.
We don't know. We don't know the issues. But what we know is we know the specific person whom we were given to work with. And as a partnership or as an alliance, we had agreed that our candidate is Morgan Tsvangirai. And our candidate, we have not sat down to change that. Our candidate is still Morgan Tsvangirai. But he himself said that if, in the meantime, while this time away, let's do rallies, let's do programs. And the person you are going to be working with is Nelson Chamisa. He said that in his statement, and he didn't stop. He hasn't given a counter narrative. Even in this Mudzuri thing, they haven't said the president told him Chamisa is no longer doing alliance things. So we are continuing with that instruction.
Obviously, from the tone of Mafume's tone, it seems as if they are willing to let go these other two, Mudzuri and Kupe. And yet you are going to an election, you want to go as divided. What are the implications here? Are they strong enough to go with Chamisa alone and discard the other two?
To them, Chamisa represents MDC-T, and
is that not foolish? The answer, is that not foolish? Is that going into an election divided? Are you saying the Kupe has no supporters and Mudzuri has no supporters?
All those have supporters, but if we are to go by the press statement from Kagoro, Mache and Raf talked on us on experience sharing workshop they had in Cape Town, you would read that he was talking about, they were talking about presence of schism within civil society and opposition groups. And from that statement, you can read that they were saying it's a technical meeting which is meant to show how coalitions around or across Africa can win or can fail to win elections. And from the statement, we have not had the occasion to hear what the conclusions were. But we are saying, judging by the contents of that statement, the alliances and coalitions are in the know that whether it was going to be called People's Rainbow Coalition and the MDC Alliance, if they were there together, maybe we could have read into what they are feeling. Are they feeling the election yet, or are they saying they are going to win or be defeated? But in this case, it's very clear that it was just some of the members who attended the experience sharing workshop, and we're having some of the members who were labeling it like the Tom, Dick, and Harris, Professor Washman saying that, and the Brian Kagoro and others are at pains to say no. We had paid for their hotel accommodation and so forth, and the tickets, and so. Politics is about that. It's at the end of the day, they want. It's a struggle for power. So you cannot read much into
what we know.
Their differences.
Yeah. What we know is that our partners in ZANU-PF lost a lot. They lost a whole president, Mugabe. They lost the Women's League chairperson.
But ZANU-PF is regrouping.
I don't know where they are regrouping.
And they regrouped.
How do you? They are grouping in smaller particles.
Just at the doorstep of the election.
No one has said that Coupe must go. No one has said, from what I understand, no one has said.
It seemed you are whipping them into line, not persuading.
Mr. Mudzuri should go. What has happened is that there is an alliance agreement. Anyone who is following the vision of Morgan Tsvangirai knows that his last vision was that they should be an alliance. And we are persuading them that they need to keep the alliance agreement intact. Whoever they then make an acting president, or whoever they then change in the alliance agreement must be intact, because that is their vision of their leader. Unless
did you censor Professor Welshman Ngwe for going to Cape Town?
Professor Welshman Ngwe did not go to Cape Town.
He did not go to Cape Town.
Yeah,
he didn't. From what
he didn't. They know Allah. Yeah, no, they are claiming to have invited us. The problem with the Cape Town issue was that as an alliance we had agreed on the modalities of forming alliances and how we do it, and also we had internal party processes that one has to go to. We still have our presidential candidate, and therefore we needed to go through those processes. You could not just rush to go to Cape Town without clear consensus and the objectives going forward. What we know and the task we have at the present moment is we need to move province to province, holding rallies, meeting the people, and showing them
as far
the
as the alliance is concerned, there's no more room for anyone else.
No. At the rallies, we are inviting people.
But in terms of other leaders coming through,
there is plenty of room.
Then why should you condemn those who met in Cape Town?
We said we didn't go to Cape Town. Firstly, we had made a resolution. That's why this alliance was made in Zimbabwe, the MDC alliance. We made a resolution that all alliance talks that we are going to have henceforth are going to be held on the ground. They are going to be held in Zimbabwe. We have started it is a deliberate decision and a deliberate resolution that we have made, that we are going to do our things here in Zimbabwe where the people are, to avoid sinister motives and all other things that can come into play. Then we said that they needed to be clear about the delegations that are coming to the alliance, so that everyone knows who has come. Everyone is clear what they have come to do, and so forth. So we are going to meet them. We are going to meet the leaders of other political parties. We are going to have a broader meeting and an agreement as to how we are going to proceed and who our presidential candidate is. But because the elections are close by, what we have done is that we already have a presidential candidate. We are getting MPs, we are getting councillors, and our presidential candidate made it clear whom we are going to work with should he be in hospital or incapacitated.
He said
that no, I'm not anointed. This is clear in black and white. That is his word, Morgan Tsvangirai's word.
That he's going to be the presidential candidate.
No. He said when you are working, the presidential candidate is Morgan Tsvangirai. But he said, I'm seconding Nelson Chamisa to represent me at the alliance business, and he's doing it very well. He's addressing meetings.
But he's not the presidential candidate.
He's not the presidential candidate.
So let's end there before we anoint people who are not supposed to be anointed.
The presidential candidate is Morgan Tsvangirai, but Morgan Tsvangirai said work with Nelson Chamisa in the meantime.
So
without a grand coalition, the MDC or the opposition political parties who blame themselves in the event that ZANU-PF wins.
Yes.
There's need for a grand or a formidable opposition. Without COD, the People's Coalition, Rainbow Coalition and MDC Alliance coming together to form one formidable party, we risk running into what we can call false consciousness.
Isn't that the Professor Welshman, when he said they invited every Jack and Jill? Are these not the COD and the other alliances which they are denigrating there?
No.
This is what The experience, Brian Kagoro and
who was Professor Washman referring to when he said?
I think there were a lot of people, because going by the.
But that isn't that what the Grand Coalition is all about? To bring everyone under the big tent.
From the presser, it seems the people who had called that simply wanted to consult on how coalitions can work or fail actually to defeat a formidable political party in government. So this is why they were actually referring to Professor Nguwe's statement that it was just unfortunate. They simply wanted a broad-based political dialogue.
Do you see a grand coalition coming out when we see all this fighting?
From now, it's very difficult, because we are seeing partners also, even alliance partners, for instance, making their own suggestions on who
we are
they
going
think.
to come to that. We are going to come to that.
Yes.
But your suggestion, I talked of an extraordinary Congress to sort out one issue which is affecting an alliance partner. What's your thought on having an extraordinary Congress? And we look at those who want to contest, Kupe, Mudzuri, Chamisa, and we say, look, why don't you contest and resolve the issue of leadership?
The only challenge with that is the constitution. The MDC constitution is the blueprint. It simply says this is discretionary. You can call for an extraordinary Congress within a, but this is discretionary, and it is different from ZANU-PF, where we are seeing people saying the president is incapacitated. He has his own charges. His wife has also some charges. Here, the MDC-T party and the MDC alliance are saying Morgan Tsvangirai is still the legitimate leader. They are not saying he can resign.
So it's a weak constitution.
No, it's not a weak constitution. Let me clarify the constitutional position here, where people are getting lost in the weeds. Those who want an extraordinary Congress will be saying they want to remove Tsvangirai.
Yes.
And now, if you want to do that, no one has asked anyone to remove Tsvangirai. You understand?
Yeah.
The extraordinary Congress can only come in the eventuality that Mr. Tsvangirai has himself resigned, he is not there, or is facing any other charges. Morgan Tsvangirai is still the leader of the party as mandated by the Congress. What we want to do, what we want to achieve, and in any event, a Congress is a cannibalistic process. You cannot enter into a competitive Congress before 5 months before an election, spend money on cannibalizing.
So
what we can do is we select, or the party, we as the alliance have agreed in our agreement that we will, Morgan Tsvangirai is the candidate for the alliance, or any other person forwarded by MDC.
So the MDC-T has to select their own.
Now,
how do they select now without a Congress?
What they've done is that, firstly, we've got a person that President Tsvangirai has indicated we represents him at alliance issues. Firstly, if they want to follow their constitution, in selecting
let's look at it constitutionally.
Constitutionally,
let's not use word of mouth.
No. Constitutionally, they have a national council that acts as a Congress in between the party. They can call a national council which can look for a presidential candidate, not which will replace its leader. Because no one has said,
but why
replace Morgan Tsvangirai?
Why would you not have clarity and just have
we don't want to. No. This is clarified. Let me be as clear as day.
It's a shortcut, but it's a dangerous.
Let me tell you, no, it's not a shortcut. I want to be clear. Anyone who is calling for an extraordinary Congress is saying they want to remove Morgan Tsvangirai. We, as the alliance partners, have not agreed to the removal of the Morgan Tsvangirai, nor does the Constitution allow for that. Then secondly, we have said that the alliance will get its presidential candidate from MDC-T. Now, if they go to their national council, they will be able to provide a presidential candidate who will hold the reins and campaign and hold the reins of the party whilst we are waiting for the president and praying for the president to recover. So there's no constitutional crisis here. We are very clear as to what has to happen. We are not going to see an extraordinary Congress that removes Morgan Tsvangirai as the leader of this party. We, unlike ZANU-PF, do not have problems with our president. He is the visionary. He has brought us back together.
Look, guys,
and we are very clear as to where we are going.
As much as you want to show your loyalty to Mr. Tsvangirai, I think there's a point. I don't even think it's about loyalty to Mr. Tsvangirai. This mantra that Mr. Tsvangirai is well, I think it's supposed to just please certain groups within the party. I know we've seen it in ZANU-PF, gentlemen. We've seen it in ZANU-PF in the past, where people will continue to endorse someone who's very much not fit.
No, George. Do you understand the way I've explained the MDC constitution? That an extraordinary Congress is there to replace the leader.
Are you in denial that Mr. Tsvangirai is currently not feeling well?
No, that's why we are praying for him to get better. We can't pray for a person whom we say is better. We are praying for him.
In 4 months there will be elections.
Yes, he has left he put in place.
Okay, I think Mr. Mafume just
clear. What the constitution of the MDC talks about meeting once every 5 years. But there is a proviso which says you can call for an extraordinary Congress at any time. And we have provided the ways of calling. You need the National Council, you need the National Executive, you need the people, you also need the provinces. So in this case, what we are saying is, yes, you might want to go for a National Congress. But if the people do not know what or why they are going there, if the provinces are not in agreement as to why an extraordinary Congress must be convened, then we have to follow, like what you were saying. I think they have Mudzuri's presser, I think it was talking about the composite political cooperation agreement, and I think he can also explain where they were saying that the part which is the strongest in any given, which is the strongest, will field a part or a candidate in that particular area they want to contest. So in this case, we are saying they have agreed that at the presidential level, we are going to have Mr. Tsvangirai or anyone seconded by him. But for other constituencies, we are then going to say the party that is the strongest support will then fuel a candidate for the coalition.
We can explain this. We are ready for elections. What we have said is that if Mr. Tsvangirai is well and fit at the time that nomination court comes, then he will stand, and we are still there. But if he is not, he will nominate a person.
And Mr. Tsvangirai
will nominate a person. And currently,
and he's well, so you say. So let's not talk about him having nominated when he hasn't.
He has. We've got
when
a person who is addressing
the
Morales.
program is late night politics, and we are discussing the currently goings on in the MDC-T and its alliance partners. We have seen the acting MDC Vice President Nelson Chamisa and MDC Vice President Elias Mudzuri tussling for who is the actual acting president in the absence of Mr. Tsvangirai, who is currently in South Africa. He's not feeling well. He's battling with the cancer of the colon, and it seems as if this has ignited a lot of tussling and jostling for takeover of the party. Now, in the studio to help me with this discussion, I have People's Democratic Party spokesperson, and he's also a lawyer. He was also in the MDC-T in its founding days, Jacob Mafume, and also in the studio, political analyst and university lecturer Sharon Hofisi. My next point, Hansi, mimi, my alliance principles, my alliance partners, you are meddling in MDC succession issues. Makambo vaku MDC-T maakudzoka maakuda kugadzira anogadzira maakuda kuita imimi kuti muise munhu anogadzwa pachigaro. Are you meddling? I think in office you start with that point. You partially raised it. are the alliance partners, the MDC-T, meddling in the succession issues of the MDC-T?
Yeah, to a greater extent, judging from what has been obtaining, you can say they are meddling because you can see what Obed Kutu was saying to Professor Welshman, that you have a small part, allow us to solve our own issues. We also see that some are now saying Nelson Chamisa. But again, if we go, we then say, kana ukange wa joina ne nasawira wako. Sawira anga vanyara rezurgitika kumba kwako. So basically what we are saying here is the MDC Alliance has MDC-T as one of the stakeholders. And as such, the other alliance partners are also justified in
to the extent of
comment.
Trying to influence succession in the MDC-T.
What they are saying is equivalent to what was obtaining in ZANU-PF. You see, constitutionally, we had the former Vice President Poko. He was supposed to have been elected the president when President Mugabe resigned, but there was a schedule to the constitution which says the party can nominate. So in this case, we are saying MDC-T has its own constitution, territorial trade set up, but now the alliance have a composite agreement, which they are saying in terms of our agreement, it's just a general, it's a composite with just something that is just general. They have a general agreement which they are saying we are not going to follow the party constitution of any of us. We are simply going to say toda kuisa iwewe panyanga kana iwe usipo kana kuti watadzane zvimwe zvinhu, we then allow you to nominate. This is exactly what was actually happening at our national level, is what is actually happening at the alliance level.
Mafume usati wapinda chiri kurwadza kavamwe ndechekuti imimi pamakatiza kana kuti pamakapatsanurana vamwe vakatodzingwa muparamende, vana biti vanani vanga vasara muparamende, you walked away from Morgan Tsvangirai and you formed a renewal, makabva ndo vasara vamwe vakasara iva vakati tiri kufamba nasave nekuoma kwazvaita, imozodzoka futi mozoti no takuda kuinfluence succession, ndo pari kurwadza vamwe vakasara vana save.
They must be rest assured we are not going to interfere in the
you are already rooting for for one of the candidates.
I have not rooted for anyone. We are not, they must, everyone must be rest assured we are not going to interfere in the succession politics in the MDC-T, because there are none. We are simply reflecting what the president said. Morgan Tsvangirai, who is still there, he said that at alliance level, this is the person who is going to represent me. Surely, if they love Tsvangirai as they claim to do, if they love the president as they claim to do, and they love his vision, why do they have a problem with the person whom he said will move with the alliance? There is no problem as far as we can see. There is no problem in us relating what the president's vision. He said, come back together.
Vision, alliance,
he put them. That's why the alliance got its name from MDC. It got its name from MDC. The alliance is not getting a name. There are many letters in there.
But you do recognize after also point under razor.
Yes, we are not going. But we are not interfering. We will not pronounce that they should make this one the president or not. We are saying in terms of kumashingo takati isusu Vatsvangirai vakasiya vachamisa vachimiririra Vatsvangirai panyaya dzealliance.
Maslogan
vakati vakomana kana ndadzoka tichakuwa nemuchishanda nemukomana.
But pamaslogan manga BT endorsed Chamisa as the MDC-T
acting president. He is the look, the constitution is there. Anouya netaito yake kudhara Mudzuri pavanga vachiekta taitaura masalutations kuti vamudzuri vauya vari kuekta, vachamisa vari kumirira alliance. Now vachamisa vauya votipa program yokuti haonai varume kubva kupati
ndiye mukuru wedu wealliance
zvopayiwaka, but ivo ndo kuinterfere kaikoko.
Kana alliance murita ayona MDC-T business or alliance business.
Unoda kuti tiinterfere kana tichingobvisa Chamisa, kana kutomubvisa kaini tori interference.
Because pane bopoto
rikitika bopoto kaisusu tokuona
rekurwisana kwavo panyaya acting.
Hapana bopoto because constitution iri clear kuti kana vanhu vabuda munyika
ivo vari kuti hamuzi kwe-MDC-T siyai reuku zveacting zvipedzerani.
No, katarisa kaisusu tiri ku iko zvino president iko zvino president weZimbabwe ndi vamunangagwa, but vaJonathan Moyo vari kunze uko vari kutaura kuti vamunangagwa havazi president. Isusu totaura kuti no president wamunangagwa zonzi muri kupindira muzvinhu zvezano, ngatitei isusu tiri kuti kana MDC-T yauya ichiti acting president wedu mazuva ano ava Chamisa, who are we to then interfere in the internal process to say that it is no longer Chamisa? Why should we interfere in that manner? So we are not going to interfere. In other words, if he comes and says, I'm the acting president, then we will take it. But what we know, if he had come...
Was Mr. Mudzuri in Masvingo?
Yes, he was.
And you were saying those things, until to issue our statement.
But what if vice president? Hatina kana vakagara pafront table, aiwa hatisi kupindira. Isusu tiri kurecognize zvatinenge tichiudzwa neMDC-T. MDC-T spokesperson wapresident anova iye Lukutamba
is an elected party member.
Aiwa, but ndiye akaannounce akati Mudzuri ndo acting. Ndiye akaannounce kuti Kupo ndiye acting. Saka tongomuteerera kana achiannounce vamwe vanhu. Musi wano announce Chamisa hatichamuteereri. Ndo interference. Isusu tinoteerera vatambe renyuka vanoshanda navapresident Tsvangirai. Ndo pese president Tsvangirai pavaida kutaura nesu vaitaura through vatambe renyoka kana kutaura naivo mune muromo wavo wega. Saka isusu we will keep on listening, hati interfere neprocess iyoyo. Tikasateerera ivavo tainterfere.
Hofisi, do you foresee a split happening up
in the
MDC-T kwete alliance MDC-T?
It could be, because you are clearly seeing that once Chamisa says or is said to be in the driving seat, you are seeing Mudzuri saying he is at the helm. But to what extent can Mudzuri pull out, create a formidable or
masplits MDC anga asingambo create formidable munhu aingoenda akaongoenda.
Yeah, what you are saying is
renewal yakauya ndobva padai zvichikodai.
Saka hapana split.
It's normal in politics for people to...
No, it's not.
Chomba kainda one. Chomba kainda ari kupi, Mande ari kupi.
He was fired from
Grace ari
he was
kupi.
fired. They were fired.
Ari kupi.
There was a central committee. So are you going to fire these ones?
No, we are not firing anyone. If kwedu ku MDC muno ku MDC alliance uko muno kana achida kubuda anongobuda ani ega ngasati nda split nani.
And this is why they were, I think, George, they were also, if you follow the Masvingo, they will say President, BT President Mafume. Then they go to Chamisa.
I'm glad Mafume tweeted and said, we don't want to be drawn into these factional fights, MDC-T. I know he is a wise man, but he is also an alliance partner. You'll be burying your head in the sand to say they are not the factions. They are Mudzuri, near Chamisa, near Kupe in MDC-T now. So to be seen to be endorsing one.
But look, the president Tsvangirai ndo muridzi weMDC, ndo varimo variku. Handisi kuti vamudzuri kana vane faction yavo, vakupe kana vane faction yavo, iyi faction ipi. What we know is that we were working with vaTsvangirai. vaTsvangirai vakati ndakusiyirai Chamisa kuti musevenze nani naye. That is what we are doing, so that if anyone comes and says inini ndakuda kusevenza nemi, tinomubvunza kuti mabvisa vaTsvangirai here, or has he changed what he had said earlier? And is the channel of communication a recognized channel of change? That is not interference. What will be interference is to profess a neutrality. No. Our alliance is called MDC Alliance. So it is based on a strong MDC. We wish it well. We wish Morgan Tsvangirai well. We wish the MDC well, because that is the name of the alliance. That is the name that will be in the ballot paper, and that is the name that's going to defeat the chaos that has been brought by Mnangagwa and these other fellas.
Because the idea of an alliance or a coalition is to bring people together, but kana tautona vanhu vachibuda nekuda kwealliance, then it loses its meaning. Because nyaya split, are you foreseeing it, Hofisi? I didn't get a full answer.
We cannot rule out that. But again, I was saying,
what are the implications of a split just before my election? Whether ane vanhu kana kuti haana, but isusu vane neutral voters.
You know, it's very clear. Chaunga chikatongoenda. Kuzoti party ne vanhu, it becomes very difficult. Yes, knows what imwe neimwe party ne munhu wayo. But if you lose if you lose some of your members, that can have a huge bearing on how you are going to fare in the election. But again, there are several factors. Are those people who are going to move out registered voters?
ZANU-PF is going to lose heavily, because it has lost more people in 2 years than us. It has lost
ZANU-PF
regeneration
ZANU-PF is actually getting
ZANU-PF yaruza vanhu vakawanda kudarika isusu. Vana Chombo vainda
vatowana manyu members
mazita manyu members isusu
assessing vanhu vari kufara nezviri kuitwa nenyaya yeeconomy. Vamwe vari kutoti
economy iri kuimprove kupi, malaini mumabhengi aripo,
aiwa pane zvimwe zviri kuitika zvinoonekwa vanhu zviripo.
Economy yevari kupinda izvozvi ndo
program is not about ZANU-PF.
Maybe economy yezvima minister zvapuwa takutona zvakuita matama.
No, the imploding MDC-T ndo nyaya iripo apa.
Zvimwe zvautoita vakadzi vechitu.
Yeah, but final words, gentlemen, as we go towards the close of the program. Imimi muchida kuti ani kwa lead, if in the end event, who would be the best candidate Hofisi, if in the event of the incapacitation of MDC-T President Morgan Tsvangirai, from the candidates who are there in the MDC-T?
I think that followers Haiti comes ZANU-PF last year. ZANU-PF was more of a spectacle. Wairambwa wacho akazongopesera aenda pamusoro.
Arurambwa apa ndiani kuMDC-T.
Saka zvikaita sokuti tirikuramba Chamisa wacho. But pokupedzisira ozongopedzisira futi aenda panyaya.
Arikurambwa azi Mudzuri ere?
No, arikurambwa ndi Chamisa zve ndio akonzeresa nyakanyaka yekunzi ari kuzviti
kurambwa navanhu. Anti mati Mudzuri ana vanhu.
No, hatina kuti ana vanhu. Tiri kuti une hakuna munhu asina munhu kupolitics.
Mati muri utanzwi ndi akasirwa nyanga akafemerwa
uchichisara. Vari kuramba because zviri kunzi pane vari kubudikira even nyange kualliance kwacho kwakapiwa Chamisa vanenge vachida kuoneka wakakuti ndivo
saka muri kuendosa Chamisa.
We are not endorsing, but it's I think it's an open book exam.
Look at the strengths of each of the candidates.
Yes.
Look at Mudzuri, look at Coupe, look at Chamisa. Why would you think that Chamisa has got more supporters in MDC?
The people within MDC are calling him their own
Which
Obama.
People?
They are saying he can talk. They are saying he's a great orator. They are saying he can articulate himself. They are saying let the elders play an elder role. They are saying Coupe was not buying into the alliance. So if MDC is going to win the ticket to State House through the alliance, it means that they have to...
Chamisa has always been a sweet talker, but you remember was defeated to the Secretary General's post by Mudzuri.
But there are a lot
when
of
it
things.
Comes to voting, sometimes
you hate a lot.
Leave ZANU out of it. Leave ZANU out of it. Even Morgan Tsvangirai was defeated in Manyonda. But what's your gauge now? You need to
what you have to know is
because when it comes to Warkuramba Extraordinary Congress,
what you have to know is the Secretary General wields power in a political party. So let's not say Chamisa was defeated.
But
by
why don't you
Monzora.
go for an extra?
We don't know
Why
who-
don't you go for an extraordinary Congress to resolve this issue?
What we are
Anyway,
saying-
Mafume, last words. Our time has run out.
Yes, right. My last words is that Morgan Tsvangirai is still our presidential candidate for the alliance. He's still the leader.
How do you see this playing out?
I'm going there. President Tsvangirai is the leader of the MDC-T. He's the candidate that we have chosen as the alliance candidate. He has given us someone to work with. That is Nelson Chamisa. And he has not given us a contrary instruction. And so we are therefore working with Morgan Tsvangirai through Nelson Chamisa
As
as
an alliance.
instructed by Morgan himself as an alliance.
How do you see this resolving itself?
Well, the people will come to their senses. We will talk it out. We should be able to resolve these things. The roles are very clear, what the alliance needs to do, who the alliance needed to work with, and therefore that will be resolved in that manner. They will do their own internal processes. They have a national council that can meet in between congresses. The sooner that national council meets, endorses an acting president and endorses the person who is working with the alliance, then we move on. But in the meantime, the rallies are coming to a place near you, the listener. Next week we are in Chegutu and the MDC Alliance, and it's the representative of Morgan Tsvangirai, Nelson Chamisa, will be there as the main speaker. See you there.
The program has been Late Night Politics. We have been discussing the chaos in the MDC-T in the past week as people were jostling. There was Mudzuri jostling for the presidency of the party, the acting president, and also Chamisa also jostling. The issue has not been resolved because as we speak this Monday, acting president Mudzuri also issued a statement, and tomorrow, Tuesday, we don't know if Nelson will also counter, but for those who follow politics, keep on following. We will keep you updated. My name is George Musumba, and keep listening to Late Night Politics. Good night.
You've been listening to Late Night Politics on Star FM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene. Join us again next week, Monday, same time on Star FM.